take blessed water. I would like you to open 1 Corinthians 10:4. First Corinthians 10:4. Who is going to
And drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ.
This is a story of the Old Testament. It's taken from the book of Exodus. But in the entire New Testament is mentioned only once. Do you think it's by chance found in 1 Corinthians?
Wow, yeah.
When Apostle Paul visited the city, this rock fountain, this sacred rock fountain, was already a famous antiquity, counting more than 1,000 years of existence.
Wow.
And with this verse, Apostle Paul is like saying to Corinthians gently, dear Corinthians, you do have your own sacred rock fountain, but there is another one which is spiritual. And from where you can take spiritual drink, and this is Christ. Look how Paul uses his surrounding reality to create images for his message and to make his message simple, understandable.
And with them, in this passage, he's pleading with them to guard against lust, idolatry, and fornication as he's speaking into this. Pretty amazing, which is obviously the issue.
Here
of Corinth.
everything was in exaggeration.
Yeah.
Okay, we continue. Okay, we have to see.
Have we started yet?
We just started. And we have a lot.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, let's go. I would like you to see the precinct wall and to remember the Acropolis of Athens. As the summit of the Acropolis of Athens was surrounded by a wall, which the same moment was a retaining wall, precinct wall, defensive wall, the same here. On the right side of the summit, as we see it, where it's like a valley, you see almost in the middle of the wall, a part of it a little bit higher, with some crenellation at the top. Now, if the light was better and we could see that more clear, you should see that this part is also projected out to our side. There used to be the gate to the summit, the gate to the precinct area. Remember the Acropolis of Athens had the gate beside the temple of Athena Nike. The parallel gate for this Acropolis is this, the main gate to enter in the whole area of the sanctuary. This gate was built up at the end of 4th century AD by the Emperor Theodosius, the most weird personality of history, I believe, because this man decided to evangelize the people of the empire to the faith of love to the enemy, by using his sword and his army. So he came here with his sword and his army, and he killed everybody who was inside there and destroyed the temple, and he turned this place into a military base. And this place was a military base until 19th century. Now this gentleman is honored by the state church, the Eastern and the Western, as a saint equal to the apostles. So the gate was there, and him to cut off the relations of this place with the city, built up the gate. Today, if somebody goes up there and steps upon this gate can see on the slope the remains of the path which was built at the form of zigzag and connected this place with the city center. The time when Paul was in the city, 1st century AD, in the city was a famous geographer and historian called Strabo. And we know from Strabo that up there, a part of the main priesthood of the goddess, there were 1,000 girls and a very big group of boys called temple slaves. Temple slaves. The task of these people was temple prostitution. Now, the temple slaves every day in groups, like small processions, through this path, came down to the city to find not clients, but worshippers. We have to say two words, possibly you hear these words for second time, but I would like you to have a clear idea of what I would like to say. For men in antiquity, the most cheap and the most delightful pleasure was sex. They were not afraid of venereal diseases because they didn't exist. The venereal diseases appear in the human history very late. Syphilis, which is the first registered and the most famous, appeared at the end of 15th century in the cruise of Columbus coming from the new lands. And is natural in the blood circulation of the dog, like natural is in the blood circulation of the green monkey, HIV. Look around you, all the species, all the mammals, they all have free sexual life, but they don't suffer of diseases because of that. This is how the human was before jumps out of the borders of his species. And is the only mammal which can do that, using his logic in a wrong way. So that made sex simple, easy, and the most preferable delight for men. I don't say women. The society was a man's society. There were ladies who were emancipated ladies. Education was addressed to the boys, not to the girls. The girls were trained to become good housekeepers by their mothers and their grandmothers. But we have an exception. In the rich families, when the tutor came to teach the boys of the family, because there were servants in the house and slaves in the house, the little girls had more time to play. And many of them, when the tutor came for their brothers, were sitting at the back listening. And so we have some ladies very well educated. Some of these ladies decided not to be subjected under the shade of a man. Since birth, women were under the shade of a man. When they were girls, under the father. When later became adults, under the shade of the husband. Still, in your country, if a lady gets married, automatically loses her surname. In our country here, 2 generations ago, the day when a lady should be married lost not only her surname, but also her first name. And since then, she was called by a feminine form of her husband's name. Men were polygamists, and that was very legal, and they were proud of it. Women were strictly monogamists. And we speak for the free, dignified ladies who were to be the mothers of the legal sons of their husbands. These emancipated, rich daughters decided to be a part of this process. They had money because their father was rich, so they could have a house. They could hire younger ladies to work for them, and they opened the gates of their house to men, not just for carnal pleasure, but also for cultural events, concerts, mathematical discussions and philosophical discussions. Their services were similar to the services of the geisha ladies of the Japanese culture. The income to this house was 100% through prostitution. But these prostitutes were highly studying ladies. We are the only ones who could go in the agora and to look to the men face to face. A dignified lady never could see a man to the eyes unless he was blood relative to her. She couldn't discuss with a man who was not a blood relative to her. She could also only answer questions. These emancipated ladies were studying beside politicians and artists, and in many cases very special and important and crucial political decisions had them behind. These ladies were called colleagues to the men, hetera. The ladies of up there and the boys of up there were not like this. If the heteras were the good restaurants, these people from up there were the street food. They came down ready to offer their body to locals or visitors for free. And they accepted only donations for the temple. They were as a procession in the city to represent the temple. They were considered to be little living and moving temples of Aphrodite in which the venerators could enter to worship the goddess of sex by sex. Remember what Apostle Paul writes to Corinthians. Be careful. Your body is not the temple of Aphrodite, but is the temple of the Holy Spirit. They were the main attraction of the city. Never somebody came in Corinth, regardless if he was a rich ship owner or a poor rower, who had not in his schedule the veneration of the goddess through them. A lot of proverbs in antiquity are related with this city, but there is one word which gives the character of this city 100%. And this word is Corinthaizing, living according to the Corinthian lifestyle, which is carnal pleasure of all kinds without limits. This is Corinth. This is why Apostle Paul was afraid to come here. Preaching celibacy in Corinth?
Yeah.
Terrible. These people of the temple, to make themselves known and to distinguish themselves from the others, who did the same, but for themselves, to be paid. They had two ways. The first was the inscription they had carved under their sandals. Follow me. How many times in the New Testament you see this phrase, follow me? This phrase was also under the sandals of these ladies and these boys. So, wandering in the dusty roads of the city of Corinth, that was printed on the dust, and everyone who was looking for them easily could follow the inscription on the dust and could find them. Cheap and very effective advertisement. The second sign was an eye sign. Somebody could see them from a distance and could understand who they were. This side sign was their hand being shaved. Men and women from up there kept their head shaved. Now, speaking for women with the head shaved, we have to say that still today, 21st century AD, in the European countryside, still you will find ladies who never cut their hair since birth. Why? Because the hair of a lady is not just a part of her beauty, but is connected with her honor. Notice all around you today, if a man has his head shaved, it's okay. But if a lady shaves her head, it's shocking. Why? Because behind here is the symbol of honor. And if today is shocking, somebody to see a lady with the head shaved, that time was even more shocking. Apostle Paul stayed here for a year and a half during his first visit. Definitely, he saw them many times. But before that, I would like to tell you two more things. The memory of these people up there, these particular people, is still alive. In the Greek law, we don't use the term prostitute. It's considered to be offensive. Instead of that, we use the term temple slave. This temple, unique case in the Greek culture. So, in the newspapers, if is a reference to prostitutes, male or female, is under the term temple prostitute, a temple slave. Second, still today, if a lady in the European countryside, still in practice, is caught committing adultery, the society, the relatives, her father sometimes, punishes her by shaving her head. I would like to remind you a major event which happened in all Europe with a special emphasis in France, Netherlands, and Norway.
World War II.
All the ladies who had cooperated during the war with the Nazis, they were grasped by the society and their head was shaved. The society to see who these ladies were during the war.
Publicly shaved
Yes.
in the streets.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You can see still films or photos from that time related with the French ladies on YouTube. And you will see how these ladies were humiliated. So, Paul, being in Corinth, had the opportunity to meet these people not some few times, but many times. They were daily seeking for venerators. Definitely, some of them heard and accepted his message. But as you understand, for a lady with the head shaved, his hair to grow in such a way so she not to be distinguished from the others who never had cut their hair since birth, needs very long time. Very long time. Men had always short hair. Because although homosexuality was practiced extensively, for a man to be feminine was totally unacceptable. So the hair of the men was always short, and it was easy for the men after short time to be not noticeable in the city, but was not the same with the women. And this is, of course, why Apostle Paul speaks in Corinth about the head cover. I would like you to open 1 Corinthians 11, 5 and 6.
And who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head.
Louder. Louder.
Oh, sorry. But every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is the same as having her head shaved. For if a woman does not cover her head, she might as well have her hair cut off. But if it is a disgrace for a woman to have her hair cut off or her head shaved, then she should cover her head.
The word is not cover. The word is cover fully. The word cover in Greek is kalipto, but the word used by Paul is katakalipto, which means fully. So no one to understand if under the head cover is or is not hair. Now, do you know that Apostle Paul, for these verses, is accused of being misogynist, hating women because of these verses? But as you see, Apostle Paul doesn't demand from the ladies to be covered. And this is totally clear. Apostle Paul puts the ladies of the church in front of a dilemma: to be covered or shaved. But because by being shaved, they transmit to the city a wrong message which is shameful, then let's find their own way. But was to them to decide. The dilemma is for creating, beyond doubt, a uniformity. A uniformity under of which these ladies from above there to find a new life status. Now, the problem of Apostle Paul was not to persuade these ladies from up there to be covered. That was very easy. The problem of Apostle Paul were the women of the church, the good believers, the dignified ladies with the long hair, to be persuaded to cover the hair, which was sign of beauty and symbol of honor. Why? For the sake of these ladies up there? The ones called that time common vessel for all men? And Paul starts an argumentation trying to persuade these ladies to be covered. Like he starts an argumentation against the Mosaic law for the men to be uncovered. Here the matter is not be covered or uncovered. Here the matter is be identified with the weak person who stands beside you and offer to this person your own position, your own life status, which is higher. This is a sign of love and respect and not misogynism, even to the most marginalized people of the society. The first letter to Corinthians is a letter addressed to a deeply compartmentalized church, broken church, and is a letter of reconciliation and love, no discrimination. No discrimination. In that letter we have the hymn of love and the definition of love. Today in Greece, a new habit started. If a child in the primary school gets sick from cancer and goes through chemo and loses its hair, all the class, boys and girls, shave their heads. This is what happened in Corinth, introduced by Paul. In the same letter, Apostle Paul says, if by eating meat I scandalize my brother, I will not eat meat again all through my life. And the question is, eating meat is a sin? Is a sin for me to eat meat? No. Then why me to be absent from meat all through my life? Because of my love to my brother. This is what the First Corinthians teaches. Is there any question? I do have a question for you. What do you think? Was easy for a man or a woman from up there, after met Paul and accepted his message, to go back up there and to say to the high priestess, dear lady, I came to say goodbye to you forever because I became a Christian? What do you think? Was easy? No. If a crazy one dare to do that, what should be the next step? Death. Remember Spartacus. So, never, and no one from up there could become a part of this place, and so to be member of the Church of Corinth for any reason, causing trouble to the church with his or her appearance, unless a free man who had his pocket full of money could go on behalf of them up there to catch the high priestess and to say to her, dear lady, I would like to buy 1, 2, 3, 4, tell me the price. And to that deal, there was not any negotiation, because that is a redemption. And this money are ransoms. And this man, of course, is the Redeemer. Without such a Redeemer, no one from there could be a part of slavery. Remember what Apostle Paul writes to Corinthians again. Don't forget, you are bought by a high price. And for sure, for some of them, that high price was not only the blood of Jesus, but also the money given up there so them to be released. The Bible says nothing about such a Redeemer. I have a personal theory. This is what I'm going to tell you now, is not in books. The Church of Corinth had at least one person who was able to do it. He was the richest citizen of the city, Erastus, the city treasurer. And if Erastus, the city treasurer, is the redeemer of people from up there, then we have some questions. What made him so sensitive to spend a lot of money for these people? Was his name related with this place? Was his name given to him? Was he first the son of a temple prostitute? Was his name given to him by the friends of his mother up there and not by any father, as an advertisement of his potential future? We don't know. But definitely, this is a good theory. The only I can think which gives an explanation about his name. There is not other Greek except him having such a name. His name, Erastus, is mentioned in the whole classical literature once more. For a slave of 5th century BC in Athens, who was redeemed and later became disciple of Plato. His name, Erastus, fits exactly to the slavery, like the name Onesimus. You know, Onesimus definitely was a slave. I have heard some preachers saying that Onesimus means useful. Possible. But if we like to go down to the meaning, to the etymology of the term, the name Onesimus comes from the verb oneo, which means I buy, and literally means this person is worthy to be bought. Buy him. Is a good machine. The same with the name Erastus. We say sexy, but the etymology is have sex with this person. It's worth it.
Sorry, babe.
Is there any question? We continue.